This project has been going for many years now. We celebrated the 10-year anniversary already 2 years ago, so it's 12 years actually. So it's one of the, let's say, most proven projects, bilateral projects that we had in Ukraine through all our years of presence here since 1993. The project is based on experience that we also have from working with Northwest Russia, where in the beginning of the 90s we had the same situation with a lot of military personnel that were in need of retraining to adapt to civilian life. So our colleagues from the University of Norrland and from IFS decided that we could use the same kind of project in Ukraine. And one of my predecessors picked up the challenge and managed to arrange financing of the first project 12 years ago now. It proved a huge success. It was very successfully adapted to Ukrainian reality and to Ukrainian needs. IFS has done a tremendous job in finding the right partners, the right universities, and to finding also the right people in the defense bloc who they could work with and who were able to provide the necessary framework conditions for carrying out the project. So in this respect, I will say it has been a huge success. Thousands of people have been retrained. They have gotten the possibility to adapt to civilian life. And I think what is perhaps, at least my personal opinion, the most unique feature of this project is that we have also provided the possibility to train whole families, not just the servicemen. We know that there are other projects like this, but they have never focused on the families, and this is something we are quite proud of, and which I think has contributed so much to the success of this program. Well, I was not here when this project started. As I said, it's been running for a long time. So how this was done initially, I cannot give you the details. I'm sure the other partners will be happy to tell stories of how this all started. But I think the key factor here has been the ability to identify, let's say, secure partners, and both within the defense sector, to find military staff who has had the right understanding of what this is all about, and who were able to then provide the necessary conditions. On the other hand, it's been the challenge to find the right partners in the university sector. And again, I think if you had chosen the wrong partners or gotten off on the wrong foot, then maybe this project would not have lasted so long. But since they were able already back then to find partners, it's been a good project. But it's also been dynamic, and I think that's another key feature, that, you know, when situations have arisen that has made it necessary to find new partners, or to say goodbye and thank you to other partners, there has been no problems with this. I mean, especially the Ukrainian part of the project, IFS, has been very sort of, I think, had a pragmatic, realistic approach all the time, and been able to develop the project dynamically. One very good and very sad example, of course, is after the Russian annexation of Crimea, when we had to say goodbye to the Tarik University in Simferopol. Of course, I mean, this was a very traumatic situation for all those people who were involved, but it very quickly became evident it was not possible, neither politically nor practically, to carry on the cooperation with the Tarik University. And both the Norwegian and the Ukrainian partners in the project adapted very quickly and sort of managed to finish the project in a dignified manner in Crimea, and then to relocate that part of the project to other cities in Ukraine, and from there developing a new network, I would say, very fast. So the big picture is that, you know, the project functions very well. But I think I will just say once again that one of the reasons that it functions so well is that there is the ability to adapt, to change when necessary. For instance, we are now seeing the need to focus more also on not only on people who are superfluous in the military system as such, but also those who are coming back from the ATO operation, veterans who might face challenges in adapting when they come back. This project is not about psychological assistance, but there are other ways of assisting, and to see if we can reach out to some of those who are coming back from the ATO zone to adapt again to civilian life. Some may have problems with jobs and so on, and to include both the commanders and the servicemen from the ATO operation in the project, I think is one thing that we are now looking at and already starting to do. And this is another example of how we can develop the whole thing dynamically. I mean, if we stop doing this, if we just say that we are satisfied with what we have like a number of universities, we've been working with them forever, we'll continue to work with them, well, then the project may sort of lose, let's say, its validity and lose relevance. But as long as we keep developing and looking for new partners to see if we can include new moments and new issues in the project that sort of comes out of the Ukrainian reality, I think the project has a relevance. My expectations would be, first of all, I mean, concrete results. I would like to see that we can go back and look at the lists of all the servicemen and the families who have gone through the program, and look at the names and say, what are these persons doing now? Are they actually having a civilian life, which in some way has connection to our project, means that they can use some of the skills and some of the attestations they have from the project to move on with their life. If we can say that, let's say, a critical mass of those who participated actually can use what they learned, and we can see this in their lives today, then we have a success. If we're just giving people a lot of documents, and then they either continue to work in the armed forces or they have to find their way into civilian life without the documentation that we have provided, well, in that case, we may not be as successful. So for me, it's about the results. Well, if we can go back and look at and talk to the people that has been through the course and let them tell the stories about what they have achieved and in what way it was important for them. Of course, it's not the same for everyone. Some might use just a little bit of what they learned on these courses. For others, this has been the real game changer in their lives. It's not the same for everyone. But we should see some result with every single person who has gone through the project. I've been having a very close dialogue with the project managers through 4 years of service here in Ukraine. I'm asking a lot of questions, and I always come back to the same question, can we show results? And that's why I also try to go out and visit all the universities and talk to the people who are involved to get some direct feedback. Because for us as an embassy, it's important to follow up the project, to be there, not only because it's nice to have an ambassador visiting, and giving out certificates, but also because it's important for us to be there and sort of feel the results and feel how those people who are participating, how they actually perceive the projects as such. Of course, I'm quite sure of all those people who have gone through the program, not everyone is happy. Not everyone is now working with what they learned. That's impossible. If we have so many thousands, that's not going to happen. But as I say, a critical mass. It's a very important question, and it's a very fair question. I mean, why? And I think that in order to answer that question, even today we have to go back to the independence for Ukraine, go 20 years back, because what we realized, I think, in Norway at that time is that we have a completely new neighborhood, a new set of neighbors Before that, it was only the Soviet Union. It was closed. Yes, we had a common border, but we had lost the contact. And all of a sudden, we have new neighbors, not only the Russian Federation, but also Ukraine, Belarus, not least for us, the Baltic states, who have now joined both the EU and NATO and so on. So a whole new set of neighbors that was very much in need of our attention. Why? Because, I mean, for us as a small country, it's extremely important to contribute actively to a stable Europe, to a prosperous Europe that is able to sustain itself and to develop. We do not want to see parts of Europe being left in poverty, or being left in despotism, or being left, let's say, in a situation where it's difficult to sustain the statehood as such. And if you look at the beginning of the 90s, all of these questions were wide open. And this particular project was one of the let's say, niches where we thought that we could make a difference, because we had competence, we had the money, and we saw there was a need for a military build down after the fall of the Soviet Union. Then, of course, things have changed a lot, and Ukraine has been through several revolutions, and we now have a completely new security environment in Europe, unfortunately, because of what is going on with our common neighbor. But, I mean, the basics in the relationship between Norway and Ukraine may not have changed in that sense, because we still feel that Ukraine is a neighbor. And when there is a need, we would like to support as long as we have the possibility. You could say, of course, that there has been ups and downs in our relationship. But after the Maidan revolution, where we at least felt that people were making changes in their own country because they wanted democracy, they wanted rule of law, and they wanted to end corruption. After that, I would say that in Norway we felt that we had to do more. We had to not only to continue, but to do more. And we have increased our support for Ukraine over the last 2 years almost 10 times for projects, for various projects. And one of the decisions we made was to continue this project. And we did ask the question, do we really need to continue this now? Are there other projects that are more important, other tasks that are more important? But what we saw was that if we develop this project right, it can actually also make a difference in the current situation. There are a lot of problems related to this sphere that needs to be solved also in a new Ukraine. So that's why we took the decision to continue for another period. I think that as long as Ukraine has a democratically elected government and president, as they do now, that are committed to democratic principles and committed to reform, then we will continue to support. We see that, of course, this is a sort of very fragile situation in Ukraine. It's not easy. It's not straightforward. There are a few steps forward and a few steps back. But we hope at least that we can sort of contribute so that there are more steps forward and less steps back. It's extremely important. I mean, we need to work with people on the ground. I mean, we cannot, of course we can support the government to a certain extent, even with budget financing through the IMF or the World Bank or whatever. But you cannot just take a pile of money and give it to another government and say, you go fix things. Never works that way. So, I mean, 99% of our projects are with organizations. Either international organizations or Norwegian, Ukrainian organizations. And a lot of them are what you would call civil society organizations. In this case, it's probably a mix of involving both authorities, civil society, and also the educational institutions. And apart from this project, we have, I think it's 9 rather big projects within the sphere of education, where we have institutions of higher education in Norway and Ukraine who have found each other, who are working together for mutual benefit. And this is extremely important because this brings together many different types of people, both students, teachers, and the sort of whole group of people around that. But what is unique about the social adaptation project is that it sort of combines, I think, also the different spheres of both civil society, authorities, and let's say universities. Because this project has been going on for a long time, and it has involved so many people and so many institutions, we could see that there are also some side effects, important side effects from this project. Especially it has helped to bring together institutions of higher education, not only the University of Norway, but also and the Ukrainian universities that participate. There has also been spillover effect, positive spillover effects to other Norwegian institutions of education who have been looking at how this project has been working and who has either started their own projects or taking part in this one. Also the project has played a role as, let's say, a hub or a facilitator for other organizations in Norway and Ukraine who have had a wish to work together. So it's been a kind of, let's say, helper also for other players to start projects. And one of the reasons, of course, is that it's been going on for so long. So there are so many people here with long-standing experience from cooperation between Norway and Ukraine who can help others sort out cultural differences or sort out other kind of questions that they might have. And I'm happy to see that Vladimir Rubtsov and also the other people who are active in this project are always coming to Ukrainian, Norwegian events, organizing also events that include more people than just the project. And being, let's say, one of the most active hubs of people in the Ukrainian-Norwegian relations.